In the case of Mr. Modi, I don't say kick out. I kicked the job and walked out. Then he started scratching his head क्योंकि आज तक किसी ने उनके ऊपर नौकरी फेंक के निकल ले. It was not a Godi bureaucracy. What we now have is a Godi bureaucracy. The wealth in Pramod Mahajan organizing the BJP conference, wealth was seen everywhere. And that wealth had got even on to people who were not used to wealth. The Gandhians and the RSSians both were very, not used to wealth. Even they were flooded on all sides by the new wealthy class. Don't bullshit me. Bullshit the rest of MPs. I'm from your tribe. Don't bullshit me. Everyone has a right of reply, including a rickshawala. Bureaucrats don't have a right of reply. This Ganesh Kumar is that his impression in the public eyes is that he's a stooge.
So today I'm joined by Mr. Jawhar Sircar. He's former MP and former CEO of Prasar Bharati. So, sir, you have worked as a bureaucrat for over 40 years. You have worked with several prime ministers and several chief ministers also. So, how this field has changed over the years? And recently, we are seeing a lot of change in this field. So, how it has changed over the years?
The bureaucracy has always been on the receiving end of a lot of criticism because of certain structural reasons. Among the different professions in the world, there are only two that are not allowed to open their mouth. One are bureaucrats, and the others are spies. And there is something similar between them. The word bureaucracy centers around the highest post of secretary, secretary to the union, secretary to the queen, secretary to the president, etc. The word secretary actually comes from a Latin word which means secretary, keeper of secrets. Keeper of secrets. So, I mean, let's not take it to extremes. The point is, bureaucracy is a secretary centric profession, a secretariat centric profession, and a hierarchical profession that has to serve the wishes of the elected legitimate government of the day, but not open its mouth. So, if there is a criticism on the field that this has gone wrong, it is for the minister to defend. And if the minister chooses not to defend, all the blame can come on, let us say, the flood commissioner. He has to remain quiet. So, one of the reasons for this is, as I said, the inability to give your point of view. Every other profession, you can catch a school teacher working in a primary school, and if you accuse him of something, he has a right of reply. So everyone has a right of reply, including a rickshawala. Bureaucrats don't have a right of reply. That's one. Number two, the job that they do is rule bound and uh, a bit impersonal. A bit impersonal. It is impersonal by nature. By nature. When you go to a hospital, for instance, they will use words like patient ko, patient ta, as if a patient is a commodity. Hmm. वो 7 नंबर वाले पेशेंट को ये so they're treating your own father as if he is just a commodity. In the bureaucracy, this sort of commodification keeps happening because to them, everyone is a number. So the nature of the bureaucracy is such that it does not endear itself to the people, touches the people's heart. But then somebody has to do it. Somebody has to run the country. Talking of what I have seen, I sat for the IAS exam in 1974. I was just 21 to 22. I keep saying somebody made a mistake. I got into the IAS in the first shot for absolutely no fault of mine. Absolutely no fault of mine. From that stage, when people are not even exposed to travel At that age, you're not supposed to. And those days when our exposure was very limited to radio and some other things, at that age, you were given a lot of responsibility. Some would say powers, some would say responsibilities. I was given an entire city area north of Calcutta, which includes today's New Town, which includes Salt Lake, Lake Town. So you can understand. Yeah, yeah. It was under subdivision of Barasat and Barakpur. So Salt Lake, Lake Town, Vadanagar, I mean all places, and uh, even New Town. New Town was then a village police station called Rajarhat. Forget it. Now what I'm saying is, next to Calcutta, that had smart policemen and a sufficient number of policemen, let us say up to Kasipur police station. Immediately after Kasipur police station, we had Baranagar, the first police station of my side. Baranagar had at that time one-fourth of the police force of Kasipur. So whenever a crime was committed in Kasipur, they would run to Baranagar because the chances of them being found out was very little. So we began our life in a lot of scarcity, difficulty, and problems. But remember, even at that time, at least 2 lakh filled in their form to sit for the IAS, 2 to 3 lakhs. And ultimately, in our time, just 120 got in. And if you take away the reservations, it will come to around 70 or 75. So you can do the calculations between 2 lakhs and 75, 2 lakhs aspirants and 75. Now I believe 7 lakhs appear. 7 lakhs appear, and finally, the same number of 80 free seats, if I may put it. I'm not saying that the reserved seats are also not competitive. They are also competitive because they also have few lakhs pursuing those seats. But for a general student, it comes out to something like 3 lakh is to 80 seats. So the ratio is one of the most competitive in the world. And the entrance, if you go through their CVs, you'll find is one of the most impressive in the world. You have IITs, IIMs, IIT plus IIM. I mean, nothing better could be there. And the man, if he chose, he could have been in Google Corporation earning 40 times of 60 times of what he is earning here. It's a choice. It's a choice. So I commend the quality that UPSC has been able to retain quality, and that the craze for sitting for the civil services has spread even more. In our times, there was a joke that whenever you ask someone, "What are you doing?" he said, "I'm sitting for CA. CA, Chartered Accounting, you could sit there for 10 years. So people would say, "We are sitting." Now nobody says that. They say, "We are sitting for the civil service." 8 saal, 10 saal, and all that become some sort of a some sort of a social thing to say I'm sitting. That means I consider myself worthy of the civil services. कहना चाहते हैं कि I consider myself worthy of the civil services. So where the entrance is concerned, you still get the best. You got the best then, except me, and you get the best now. Motives. I'll tell you motives in our period. If somebody had certain ill motives, he would be caught in the first year or so. And if the superior wanted to finish him off, they would finish him off. But sometimes the superiors found that these corrupt types were more efficient than others. So sometimes superiors and political bosses protected them, even in our time. So we had about a 10% rate of corruption even in the 1970s and 80s. 10%, 15% rate of corruption. Besharam. We used to call them Besharam. I remember if somebody walked in with a flashy watch, we would ask him, "Kyo, kisi ne ghus diya?" We are pretty flat about it. Nowadays, I believe that both in the state and in the center, this percentage has gone up. That is a sad part. The reason is number one, a lot of more money has come into government. The size of government has expanded a lot of. There's a lot of money to be spent and a lot of procedures through which money is spent remain archaic, remain dubious, and many of the fellows find that everyone from the chaprasi up to the minister are making money. The only idiot who's not is the joint secretary and deputy secretary or joint secretary and secretary. So some of them decide not to become idiots. So there is a larger tendency nowadays. Nowadays, that is something that consumerism that is has something to do with consumerism, the propagation of consumerist values. I must have this, I must have that, I must go to Geneva, etc. And we entered the plane for the first time after so many years, after 10 years. We entered a five-star hotel. I don't think I entered a five-star hotel before I was 30. 30 years, 8 years of service. I remember I was at some conference in a five-star and I was looking around like this. Boys who are not in the service, those who are appearing civil servant, ke liye, they know five-star. So, aspirations and demands and others have increased. So corruption has also increased. But let me talk about delivery. Delivery. Delivery is something that requires motivation. There is a high degree of motivation among people then and even now. There's a high degree of motivation of people even then and now. People who see in the same family three daughters, one married to a doctor, the other married to a businessman, and the third married to an IS officer, and he is on the receiving end. तेरे को तो power इतना है, लेकिन आके मेरा कैडिलैक देख, come and see my such and such, this car.
Face this.
Huh? Ha, I faced it. I have also faced it. Everybody faces it. Everybody faces it. Some are more decent, like if a brother visited a brother and he saw his Fiat car, he'd take it for a round, and before going, he'd fill up the tank. So when the brother went in next time, we found the tank filled up. So it's a sort of small things ki ye hai, ki ultimately you are the pride of the family. Because everybody knows that I make millions, but I make millions by selling shoe straps and boot polish. Shoe straps and boot polish. Now, problem is in the neoliberal consumerist post 21st century world, we now have kings of shoe polish, the emperor of shoe tips. So they have also been valorized. You see, the pink paper would give you pictures, would give more publicity and more, what let's say, positive outlook to somebody who's adding value to the nation, which Siddhi Baat is adding value to the shareholder. So don't give me this nation thing in between. He's adding value to shareholders. Somebody who's in charge of Sulabh Sauchalay and the entire business of Sulabh, God bless them, they do good work, would also get a lot of prominence. Or somebody in so the world of commerce of the 21st century makes everybody a hero. So that part has gone. Like we used to have so-called VIP things. Now you find CIP more important, commercially important person more important. So we have seen the entire change in the world. I have a story that I joined, I say by oath, that I joined the Soviet Socialist Republic of India in the year 1975. I joined. We did join what is called the Permit Control Raj. Now, the Permit Control Raj represented the, the ethos of the nation at that point of time. But towards the end, towards the last part of the 80s, when I was in Commerce Ministry in Udyog Bhavan, the commercial capital of India, I used to get sick. I used to get sick at why do we need such controls? I have written about it. A file would come to me for release of peacock tail feathers. You know what peacock tail feathers are? More. So, what do you want peacock tail feathers? No, these are to be exported to the Middle East uh, for cleaning the masjids. I said, okay, great, but why do we need a permit? Well, no, this has to be permitted. And after a lot of questions, they said this was decided because once upon a time, some people were found plucking the bird feathers from the live birds. So there was a committee, vagara, 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 and this thing. So at that time, it was decided that peacocks naturally shed so many feathers, and if half of them are consumed by the market, Indian market, for dressing up Lord Krishna, the other half could go there, and some bureaucrats sat over, some committee sat over it and decided that we can export this much. So every year, since the peacock population is increasing, we have this problem of numbers. So a new fresh permit has to be issued. I said, for God's sake, you tell me I'll issue the permit. I got a phone from a senior saying, Jawhar, you are holding back the entire shipment of peacock tail feathers by asking all sorts of stupid questions. I said, no, no. I mean, I know, no, I know. Questioning the permit control Raj itself is stupid. I said, okay, I'll sign. I am signing a permit for 3,40,936 peacock tail feathers to be exported in the vain hope that the peacocks know that they have to shed that number of feathers. Now, we have gone through this. It was reached a stage when corruption was endemic. People would be coming with suit lengths to all sorts of babus. Even I couldn't get into the lift because there were four fat fellows with six suit lengths. So, I mean, it was pretty clear that everything was purchasable and everything was this thing. So, in 1991, when Dr. Manmohan Singh broke it down and Mr. Chidambaram, as a very young minister, came to commerce and he said, down with all controls. So, every day we take a book of rules and we go through it with a fresh mind. I remember after the meeting, a joint secretary came to my room and said, you have been given the task of breaking up this rule. Jawar, remember, it is these controls that are keeping India alive. Don't sell them off to Banias. I looked at him for a moment and said, sir, you have a lot of truth in what you are saying. But why are two of your children, both of your children, in America? Why are they in a free country where there are no controls? Answer that. So he got the point, I got the point. We tore up that book, I gave it to Mr. Chidambaram, and the next day there were no such rules on that. But it took some time for these new rules to come up. Uh, one of the biggest thing was telecom, where we had so many players. But within telecom, we also had a big player who came in with a suitcase full of 1 crore rupees. So you know those stories also. So what happened was it released a lot of pent up energies, economic energies. And in place of that same MTNL, BSNL, or call it whatever, every time a telephone went down, and it went down three times a week, three parties of five persons would come first to inspect. The second one would come and say, they look at the wire. So you had to have 14 or 15 people coming up and inspecting the damned instrument before it could be repaired. From that, we shot to millions and billions of cell phones. And the cell phone started also by putting in you pay for all calls. So we went through these experiments, and today I'm glad to say that cell phones have reached a stage where India is there. Airlines, we had only one airline where the pilot, the moment he got in, he growled like a bear. Oh, I'm taking off from here. You passengers, shut up and sit down. That sort of thing. That's also gone. So we have a competitive spirit. So post 91 economic energies were released and the economy went up in stages. No, it didn't go up from 91 because it actually started from 94, 95. By 2002, 3, it was reached a stage when you could see the wealth. You could see the wealth in Pramod Mahajan organizing the BJP conference. Wealth was seen everywhere. And that wealth had got even on to people who were not used to wealth. The Gandhians and the RSSians both were very, not used to wealth. Even they were flooded on all sides by the new wealthy class. The new wealthy class was more corrupt than the permit control wealthy Raj. For the simple reason, stakes were higher. If he could, if somebody wanted a permit for a peacock tail feather or for exporting such and such, he got this much. If somebody could bag 7 airports in one shot, he got that much. And somebody who's getting 7 airports must have tremendous amount of political clout. So corruption has also gone up by leaps and bounds, and such corruption cannot take place without the collaboration or the silence of the bureaucracy. The Civil Aviation Secretary who signed the 7 airports file came from the civil service background and he knew exactly what he was doing. But he saw to it that somebody else had written something, some paperwork was clean, and he signed. What was he doing? The person who was being given is known to be a crony. Number two, he has no experience in handling airports. That is the minimum thing you can ask. Do you have experience in handling airports? He could have brought in a foreign partner, but he didn't. He had no experience in handling airports. Number three, the competitive conditions that were given were objected by finance and yet overruled. Number five, the valuation of the property were, were not fair. The same valuation is all a matter of sleight of hand. So the valuation, he knew that he was actually handing over 7 airports to a crony who's very close to someone, but he signed it. And when I questioned him in parliament, he gave me twisted replies, what we call jalebi replies. Jalebi replies. Whereas undersigned and that way, I called him one day. I told him, don't bullshit me. Bullshit the rest of MPs. I'm from your tribe. Don't bullshit me. So I've given one example. The same goes for environment, where environment secretaries have collaborated in the deforestation. They're bringing frauds like replacement forestation. That if you cut off so many mahogany trees, we'll bring you so many other trees, alternate forestation. None of these work. So there has to be that jihadi spirit, if I may use a strong term, that spirit of fight. कि हम नहीं छोड़ेंगे. Chipko movement, like that, I'm not going to spare it. And at least if two environment secretaries had the guts to resign one after the other or be kicked out, we know that the bureaucracy had put up a fight. It was not a Godi bureaucracy. What we now have is a Godi bureaucracy. Those who don't want to take part in all this nonsense don't apply to the government. Our time getting into the government of India was like getting into a rugby match. Now, no IAS officer wants to go there unless he wants to ingratiate himself to the powers that be, or he himself is a Sanghi. We have so many Sanghis openly who have forgotten the oath under the constitution to remain plural and would talk to their ministers both with two tilaks in their forehead. You can't, you have a system that is being debased. That is being debased. So whether you collaborate without a tilak or whether you collaborate with a tilak, it makes me sick. I still know that there are very many officers, brave officers, who are fighting it out. And once in a while, when the Prime Minister lets out a tantrum against IAS, it means that he is being stopped in many ways. A good example I can give you is this national monetization pipeline. It's a stupid idea, or let me use the parliamentary term. It's an inane idea that you take a railway station, you give it to someone to run it, he makes some profit out of it, and he returns it back to you. Why on earth will he want a railway station that he has to return back? I mean, it doesn't make sense. If he can't make money out of it, if he puts in long term investment and builds, let us say, a structure above it, shopping mall above it, which can be entered, then why would he want to leave? So the whole thing doesn't make it. Pipeline se paisa khicho, it doesn't make sense. So this was one of those, again, those inane things that Nirmala Sitaraman is fond of. I have seen so many finance ministers and worked with so many of them that I can safely say that I have never seen such a stubbornly unreasonable person who's so conceited about her party's victories that whatever she says is taken at discounted value. I have said that to her in parliament again and again, that you are not saying the truth. And her reply is, as a professional debater, she shrieks at you, shrieks at you. Nirmala Sitaraman, 10 or 15 years younger than me, I can shrieks at you, doesn't have facts at command. All she does is to shriek, and the shrieking brigade keeps saying, Modi, 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 and that's the end of it. You can't have a debate. Whatever she shrieks and says, "Ye aapne ye ka," then they start clapping. This is not parliament. This is the Nuremberg meeting of the Nazi party, where everybody, all they said was every two words, you couldn't hear what went on in Nuremberg. All you heard was Hitler, Hitler, Hitler. So you can't have parliamentary democracy in this manner. I have seen the deterioration. I have talked about the collaboration. I have also talked about those brave officers who will not allow. So then every now and then they are reshuffled and sent to sideline departments. वो भी छोड़ते नहीं. They go down, they retire with full pride and go back. So that part is also there. But the more are the number of collaborators now.
Uh, Recently, we have seen a press conference by LOP on Rahul Gandhi on the vote chori thing, and we saw a counter press conference by the ECI where the Chief Election Commissioner did the press conference, Ganesh Kumar. So, how do you see that press conference? Because he is also a bureaucrat, and you have also worked. So, how do you see the whole thing?
No, the press commissioner, the election commissioner is within his duties to clarify issues through press conferences. So he has done the right thing by holding a press conference. But this gentleman, if I may call him a gentleman, we could also shorten it to half. Now, he's a peculiar creature. When I was talking of collaborators and sanghis, I have really not seen such a shameless one. I have conducted two parliament elections in 1998 and the 1999 of 42 parliament seats each from the most difficult state of India, West Bengal. I know what conducting it is because I am driving the bus. The CEC is telling me, giving me, sending me GPS maps. That's all. Driving to मैं ही कर रहा हूँ ना. Even if the CEC tells me take left, and I find right is better, I drive right. So our main thing. I have seen bad ECs, some few. Usually CECs are of a high quality, but I have not seen such a terrible one. So I inquired into his background and found that his thing was when he was a mid-level officer. Remember, these fellows are here for 11 years. It means that he was junior level officer. He offered his services to Amit Shah over the heads of people who were perhaps not so enthused to be doing Amit Shah's command. And through that, he came in and he was instrumental in imposing that 370 article. You see, Article 370's imposition is a legal issue. I still think it is not fully legitimate, but Supreme Court has decided to run away from the problem. Good enough. The nation gets what it deserves. But what followed for the next 3 years was military occupation. Sheer military occupation of Kashmir. I've been there at that time. Every 5 yards, there was a policeman. Even now, and with so many policemen and so many drones and everything, if somebody wants to shoot at Pahalgam, they shoot and go away. Now, this guy is the one who went in for fine tuning the जिसको कहते हैं torture. इसको ऐसा fine tune करो, इसको ऐसा fine tune करो and all that. So this guy is one of the guys responsible for bearing the fangs of the deep state. I have worked for the government and I know which part is the deep state and which part is the benevolent state. He was chose to be a part of the deep state. From there, he moved on to other tasks of Amit Shah, a person who's held with so little respect for a lot of encounters and for a lot of other things and for his own crass behavior with people, his own rough and right techniques, and his failures. Look at Manipur. Look at Manipur. Look at J&K even now. Look at the rough way with which they dealt with a person of a high integrity like this Wangchuk, Thoram Wangchuk in Leh, Ladakh. So, and knowing fully well that it's only a duffer who would have to understand that Leh, Ladakh are two parts. Leh is almost on the, what shall I say, teeth of China, the Leh Ladakh part. And the Kargil Ladakh part is for where we have lost hundreds and thousands of soldiers. Leh Ladakh and Kargil, you are stoking a fire there. You think that's your Manipur next. So, if I were there, I would have told them right to his face, कि आपको जो करना करो, because it's incidentally I've been kicked out 4 times. So I'll record the 4 times I was kicked out by the top bosses of the state and the center. And in the case of Mr. Modi, I don't say kick out. I kicked the job and walked out. Then he started scratching his head क्योंकि आज तक किसी ने उनके ऊपर नौकरी फेंक के निकल ले कोई नौकरी फेंक के नहीं निकला छोड़ो. So what I'm saying about this Ganesh Kumar is that his impression in the public eyes is that he's a stooge. अच्छा stooge भी ठीक है. He's an aggressive stooge. He's an aggressive stooge who, like his boss, thinks that aggression can cover inefficiency. His boss thinks. So then again, he went with the same boss from home and special secretary and all that to cooperation secretary because it was Amit Shah's department. छोड़ते नहीं. He worked with Amit Shah even in this thing, in as cooperation secretary. And from there he was gifted this post. कि बेटू तूने तो मेरे साथ 7-8 साल काम किया, तू तो जानता मैं क्या चाहता हूँ, तू कर ले अभी. So this is how these things happen. This fellow is there on his rounds. The last question I'm asking him is that you accused Bihar of being full of ghuspetiyas, for which you demanded citizenship certificates from Bihar, from every citizen of Bihar, for which you were pulled up. The first time in history, the Supreme Court pulled up the Election Commission. Supreme Court normally never pulls up the Election Commission. Pulls up. And now we have about 6% cut from the roll. ये 6% कट में आप हमें बताइए घुसपैठिया कितने हैं, घुसपैठिया कितने हैं और बिहारी कितने हैं, यह आपको बताना ही पड़ेगा.